and welcome to Open School of Business. Today I have a pleasure to introduce you to Dennis Concerta, a small business owner and startup marketing consultant. Today we're going to talk about digital marketing and especially how small business owners can implement it with their limited amount of time and limited budgets. Dennis, welcome. Very happy to have you today.
It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope that I can bring some value to your audience.
Yes, this is exciting because I think your experience throughout the years, you've gone through so many different senior positions in marketing, like chief marketing officer. You founded some businesses yourself, and you've definitely worked a lot of different jobs. So today I would like to get your perspective on being an entrepreneur. And first of all, I'd like you to share your story of becoming an entrepreneur yourself.
Sure. So my story is very similar to many other people's stories. I went to college, I got a degree in psychology, which I was not able to apply in the job market. I would have had to go back to school and get a doctorate in order to do anything with that. And at the time, I was a broke college kid, had a lot of debt to pay, so I just went straight to work. And what I realized at the time was all of this stuff that I studied for several years in college, I couldn't actually use in the job market. So I bought a couple of books on PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, Excel, and I became a temp at a number of companies, just doing word processing and that kind of thing. Eventually, I had a full-time job, and I grew into a role of basically an office manager, you can call it. And what I realized was that wasn't my calling in life. It wasn't exciting for me. It wasn't the right path that I wanted to take. And at the same time, one of my friends had gotten laid off from his job at an investment bank. This was in the early 2000s. So we got together and we said, you know what, let's have a couple beers, see if we can figure something out. What are people doing out there that's making money? Maybe we can do this thing and it'll get us out of this situation that we're each in. And At the time, Netflix was hitting its tipping point where DVD rental by mail was booming. And we said, well, maybe we can get into that business and just focus on a smaller niche. And so that's exactly what we did. And I learned how to build websites, how to write PHP and do database stuff. And I built a platform for DVD rentals from scratch. I learned all of my developer skills on the fly. And I learned how to do SEO and different types of digital marketing to make this business successful. And within 2 years, we were able to sell it to another company. And I worked for them for a couple of years. And from there, I saw the business model wasn't really moving in the right direction. DVDs were on the way out, video streaming was coming in, and we weren't prepared for that. And so I said, okay, maybe it's time for me to make a move to something else. So I became the director of e-commerce at a cookie company, and I did that for a couple of years. I still consulted for the other business separately, and had a very good couple of years. And then from there, I went the agency route. As you said, I was the chief marketing officer for a New York City firm. And what was really interesting about that job was that when I came in there, they were really a web design, web development company. They did some SEO, and that was really it. And so I worked very closely with the founders to productize digital marketing. So we created products for email marketing, for affiliate marketing, pay-per-click, all of these things that their customers who bought developed websites needed to do. So I did that for a couple of years. And again, I knew it was time to make a jump, and I started my own agency. I still kept them as a client, and I brought on other agencies as clients also. First, if you're thinking about getting into the service side of, let's say, a small business or digital marketing or something like that, it's a relatively easy path to revenue to let other companies bring the clients if you can do a good job of servicing those clients on the back. And that's what I did. The negative to that is that you're building their brands. So you're spending all of this time, all of your money, effort, energy, all of that, building somebody else's company. And that's okay for some people, but it wasn't okay for me. And long story short, I was working on so many accounts at the time, a few of my own and many for other agencies, and it was too much. And it drove me crazy, and I said, you know what, I need to take time off. And I shut everything down, and I took about a couple of years off just to figure out what my next step was. And what I realized was that I was so busy trying to make the cash register ring, trying to bring more clients to pay my bills, pay my employees, provide a good service to my clients, and I lost my sense of purpose. It wasn't even about the money. It was, I forgot why I was doing what I was doing. And so I needed to regain that sense of purpose. And that's what those couple of years off helped me achieve. So during that time, I tried different things. Some of them were business related. Some of them were outside of that. They were just interests that I had, things I wanted to do to bring value to society in general. And that got me back on the path of saying, you know what, I want to do something that actually matters, because, and this is something that people have been realizing over the last 2 years with these lockdowns because of people being afraid of this pandemic. People are realizing that life is precious. We only have a finite amount of time. You can always find money, but you can never get your time back. And so I realized this before the pandemic, and now people are realizing it because of all of the things that happened around it. And I said, okay, I need that sense of purpose again, because I spent so much time working. I spend so much time working that I want to make sure that those hours are meaningful for me and enjoyable for me in the same way that my off time is. And so what I decided was, okay, you know what? I can do this digital marketing thing for other companies, but let me go back to something a little bit smaller. Let me focus on businesses that I know that if I do a really good job for them, I'm not only making money, but I'm doing something bigger. I'm helping them achieve something that brings value to the world, that brings value to their clients. And that's what's really exciting for me. I decided to focus on businesses that if I could help them, I would feel really good about it. And so, for example, I worked with some companies in the health and wellness space. And this was something that was very important to me, because you got to understand, when you go through, let's call it a burnout, because that's what it was. When you go through burnout as an entrepreneur or as somebody working somewhere, it puts you in a really bad headspace, and it's hard to get out of that. And what happens is you become depressed, angry, you start having physical symptoms, right? You start putting on weight. That's what often happens for people, and that's what happened to me. And so for me, it was an amazing thing that I actually discovered clients in this space, and that the work that I did for them was actually helping me in my personal life. So think about this for a moment, okay? One of my clients, I produce, 50 articles a month for them, all about wellness, how to get your head right, how to get your body right, how to get your finances right. And I'm producing all this content. I'm like, you know what? I should be doing this stuff. So it was actually an education for me on how I could make my life better by helping them. And that's one side of the business. And then the other piece of it, another project that I'm particularly happy about is during this lockdown, so many small businesses were shut down because they couldn't open their doors. They were restricted. People were afraid to go and shop. Governments were not letting people shop. Where I live, restaurants eventually opened up, but with limited capacity. You could only let in 25% of the people to eat your food and pay for stuff. That meant that businesses were shutting down, people were losing their jobs. All of this stuff was happening. And one of my clients is a company that builds awnings and pergolas. And what that means is they create outdoor space so that restaurants can have more tables outside when it rains, when it's too hot out, whatever. So we were creating these these awnings and these pergolas so that restaurants would hire us to put them in place, and they'd be able to seat more people while still being compliant with whatever regulations were in place. We were saving businesses, we were saving jobs, and we were making a ton of money doing it. So doing well by doing good, like that's the kind of thing that really excites me. And that's where I am today, which is I'm not really looking for a lot of clients. It's not exciting for me. I'm more interested in the kinds of businesses that I can help because, again, I know that the work that I do really matters and it makes me feel good to do a good job for them. And that's pretty much my story up until today.
Wow, I think so many things that you said are resonating with myself, and I'm sure our listeners and our friends of Open School of Business that would relate to that. Because a lot of people, they go through years and years of working, and at some point they really lose the why and how they're contributing. So losing that connection makes it really difficult to move forward and make an impact. So, and obviously the pandemic has made it even more visible to everyone how wrong we lived for quite a while. And the challenges were just devastating for a lot of businesses. So it's definitely great that you've been able to save some of these small business owners and share your knowledge with them and provide the services. Especially I relate to the fact that you've been doing wellness clients and you've learned a lot. So right now I also launched a program called Elevate Your Business, and some of my favorite clients are actually nutrition coaches and fitness coaches. And it's amazing that how we are exchanging information, and it's beneficial for both parties. So you've been talking about, the content creation, that you've been writing blogs, and this is the way you helped other businesses promote themselves. So if you were to be a small business and you have limited time and the budget, how would you start your journey in digital marketing? I mean, if not necessarily be blogging, but in general, marketing and especially the social media marketing that is so popular these days?
The first thing you need to do is really understand who your customers are so that you can meet them where they're at. And what that means is actually sitting down and figuring it out. So if you have existing customers, look at who's coming into your store or who's buying on your site. Try to figure out stuff about them, okay? How old are they? What are their interests? Do they have kids? What is their employment status? What are the things that bring them joy, that bring them purpose? What is their why? Try to figure that out as much as you can, and then you've got a starting point. And a good way to do that is to start building out what people would call a customer avatar or persona, whatever you call it. All it means is think about a couple of types of customers that would buy from you and build a story around each of them. Okay, what we're talking about now is what people would call a customer journey. So let's just pretend we're talking about a customer at a clothing store, right? Let's say you sell, women's clothing. And maybe your average customer is someone who's, let's say, a woman. She's 35 years old. Maybe she's got 2 kids who are tweens, right? Think about who that person is. Maybe she's working part-time or something like that. And then what you want to think about is, okay, how do I bring this person value beyond just the products that I sell? Because if you can do that, then what you're really doing is you're building a community. And if you have a community, those are the people that are going to be amplifying your brand for free. They're going to be talking about it. They're going to be buying your stuff. They're going to be posting it on social, telling their friends. So you want to build that community around your brand, and it starts with understanding who your customers are. Now, let's take this same customer and let's think about, okay, what would she be interested in? She's 35, she's got 2 young kids. What would she want? What would help her, right? And maybe if we think about the current situation, for example, a lot of parents had to switch to homeschooling, right? Their kids used to go to school, and then for a long period of time, their kids were staying at home. Maybe they're doing some Zoom classes, but by and large, many parents were teaching their kids one-on-one. And you can say, okay, what would help somebody like that? And maybe the answer is, well, you know what a lot of parents have been doing during this lockdown is they've been creating these pods. So you have 3, 4, 5 parents together. Maybe one of them knows math, another one knows English, another one knows something else. So that instead of one parent trying to take on all of those tasks, they're sharing it with other people so that all of their kids can do better together. And so that would be an example of something that might bring value to somebody who fits that persona. So you think, okay, now I take this story, now I put it on social media, I put it on my blog, and what I've created is value that doesn't cost anything, that resonates with my customer, and it's not even related to buying stuff, because I'm building community. Now, the hard part of it is getting those people to come back. That's the hardest part. So you put all this work into building this blog post or these social posts, and somebody finds them and they get value, and then they forget who you are. So you got to figure out, okay, how do I capture this lead? And what that means is a few things. So if you're on a limited budget, a couple of things you can do are, number one, let's say we're talking about your website. Okay, when they land on the page, let's make sure that we give them a prompt to sign up for push notifications. And what that means is, all right, they opt in on their mobile device that says, yeah, send me a notification when new blog posts go up, so that now you've got new posts on your site and they're getting pinged, oh, I can read more stuff and learn more things. So you're getting them on your list that way. Then you also want to get them on your email list. So give them a reason to sign up for your email. Everybody puts up, oh, sign up for our newsletter, and they think that's going to work magic. But unless you're a very well-known brand, that isn't what usually happens. What usually happens is people ignore it. You have to give them a hook. You have to give them a reason to sign up for that list. And usually what that means is you give them something, right? So in marketer language, and I hate using marketer language. I prefer to speak in plain English. But generally, you would have what people would call a lead magnet. And what that means is, okay, let's maybe make a PDF or something like that, something that somebody, if they put in their email address, doesn't cost them any money, but it costs them an email, they're going to get something of value. So maybe it's a PDF, an ebook, whatever, that teaches them stuff that's related to what they were interested in on the blog. So if we're let's use this homeschool example with the pods, maybe on that page, you've got, by the way, get 10 more tips on how to teach your kids stuff or how to make your kids' life better at home or whatever. Sign up for this email and you get that. See, because now it's relevant to the content that they were just reading. They're more likely to sign up for that than something that's not relevant. So that's how you might build your list with your website. And then on social media, it's harder in some ways and easier in others. One thing you can do if you have a little bit of budget is you can run a contest. Now, everybody talks about contests and most people fail at it. What I would encourage you to do is actually use some tools that are available and they're not that expensive. One tool I've used very effectively is, and I have no relationship with them whatsoever. I've only used their tool. I don't make any money off of it, none of that. There's a tool that I use. It's called Gleam.io, Gleam. And it's something like $100 a month. And what it does is it makes it easier for people to enter your contests. In addition to that, they have a community of people who are engaged with their product. They know how it works. They understand the system. They're looking for these kinds of contests. And so imagine you use this thing. It's like $100 a month. And you assign points to different things that people can do, right? Like a post, get a point. Share a post, get 2 points. Follow your page, get 10 points, etc. And you do this, and you do giveaways, and you search out for sites where you can post your giveaway. There's tons of them, and you get people engaging with your page. And those are not the people that are necessarily going to buy stuff today. They might buy stuff eventually, but what they're doing is they're increasing your engagement, and they're broadening your audience so that their friends might see your stuff too. Now, what we're really talking about here is what I would call a digital marketing funnel, okay? All that means is most customers, let's say they're entering the top of your funnel, they're not really looking to buy stuff, right? They're just, you're making them aware of your company. And a good comparison might be somebody says, you know what, I want to go shopping, so I'm going to go to the mall, right? They're not really thinking about what they're going to buy. They're at the top of the funnel. But then maybe they walk into your store and they see some jackets on hangers, and they're like, you know what, I want to buy a hanger. That just means they're moving down the funnel. They're getting closer to that point of conversion where they actually buy the product. But maybe they don't buy that jacket at your store. They don't buy it that day. They're going to shop at a dozen other stores. Maybe eventually they see a discount somewhere and it's nicer and it fits well, and they're like, okay, now I'm actually going to buy it. What you want to do when you get people into that funnel is you want to make sure that you're engaging them every step of the way, so that when you do all the work of getting them interested in that jacket or whatever it is you're selling, you want to make sure they come back to you to actually make the purchase. And that goes back to the community building, building your blog, bringing them value outside of just trying to sell them stuff. So when we go back to this contest, think about it as filling the top of the funnel with people who are just interested in whatever it is. And I'll give you one example. I did one of these contests for a sock company. They had these really cool socks that you wear. They've got all these funky patterns on them, etc. And that was a very easy giveaway to do because everybody wears socks, and some people like them when they just look exciting. So what we did is we ran a contest for 30 days, and every day we gave away one pair of socks. And at the end, we had bigger prizes. I think it was like $1,000 worth of socks was the grand prize or something like that. So if you think about the wholesale cost of that, it's not that much. This is something you can do as a small business owner. So we ran this contest for 30 days. We're giving stuff away each day. People are liking our posts, sharing them, signing up for our email list. At the end of this contest, for, again, very little cost, a couple $1,000s in merchandise, and like $100 for the month for this tool, we grew the email list. I want to say, I think it was like 15,000 people signed up for our email list in 30 days. We grew our social media by tens of thousands of followers across all of these platforms. That gave us a base. That gave us a foundation of people who at least knew about our product. So now the question is, okay, how do you build a community around people who are just looking for free stuff? Like that's hard. How do you turn somebody who just enters a contest, looks for free stuff, into a paying customer? And an analogy I use is think about how casinos work, okay? You go to the casino, let's say you play roulette. I'm very boring. I just bet on black every time. I know I'm going to get 50-50, I'm going to break even, and that's how I spend my time. But most people, when they go to the casino, it's exciting for them. And the reason why it's exciting is because of that random chance. So you bet on one number on the roulette wheel, maybe you got a 1 in 37 chance of actually winning. But if you win big, and that's exciting. So now think about how you shape your content around that. If we're talking about social media posts, and maybe after this 30-day contest is over, you might say, okay, you know what, I'm still going to do some contests because that's what these people want. But I'm not going to do it on every post. Maybe I start with 1 out of every 2 posts and 1 out of every 3. But again, that random piece is important. So it's not like you do one blog post and then 1 contest and then 1 blog post and then 1 contest. You want it to be random. So sometimes it's your content, sometimes it's a contest. If you make it random, they're going to be engaging with your content more because they want that fix, ultimately, of the contest. So you do this, you get people engaged in your site, And because it's random, they're actually looking at your other content besides the contest. And a segment of those people are going to be interested in your product. And those are the people that you really want to go for. So those are just a couple of examples of how you can grow and engage your audience over time.
Yes, I love those examples. And I think my follow-up question is that if you're selling something as very simple as socks, what kind of blog posts are you going to be creating? And even like, if you know, let's forget about the socks and go back to the women like 35 plus with kids. You're giving them this information that's is relevant to them, but it's sort of very much away from the direct goal, which is clothing. So is there any kind of science behind what blog topics are better, because then maybe they will be a bit closer to the product and therefore have better conversion rates?
You want to move them in the direction of a purchase, right? You always want to provide value, and you want to move them in the direction that you want. So what that means is it's not about, okay, I'm going to write a blog post on how to teach kids at home, and then I'm going to immediately try to sell to them. That's not going to work very well. But think about how you can nurture that lead. Okay, so let's picture the customer journey. What happens? This mom lands on this article about how to teach her kids at home. She's like, oh, this is great. And then she sees, okay, I can download more cool stuff about this topic if I give my email address. So she puts her email address in. Now, what most small business owners do at that point is they're like, okay, now I'm going to just start sending newsletters to this person. That's not going to work. Okay, what you want to do is think ahead. Okay, now how do I take this person who's interested in, let's say, educational stuff for their kid and move them in the direction of buying a jacket for their kid? Okay, so what that means is what you want to create are what I would call email sequences. Okay, what that means is if somebody gets that first message where they get that PDF that teaches them stuff, you want to send them a series of messages. Maybe let's say 5 messages to start. You can do that. It doesn't cost you anything to create that content. In the first piece of content, you're giving them exactly what they're expecting based on what they just read. In the next email that goes out, maybe it goes out a couple days later or something like that, or a week later or whatever, you're moving them in the direction that you want. So now you're still talking about that main topic, but you're also introducing other stuff to it. Okay, so let's say we want to move somebody in the direction of buying a jacket, and it's December. Okay, so the next email might be about cold weather and education, because they were interested in education stuff. Okay, and by the way, maybe now you're starting to incorporate a little bit about your merchandise into that newsletter. And then maybe the third message that they get in this sequence, this is all planned out in advance, right? Somebody gets the first message, and then they're going to get on a schedule all of the other messages. Maybe the next one is moving more in the direction of, okay, what happens in cold weather with kids? Well, they get sick, they get cold, they need to bundle up, all this stuff. And here's some advice on how you can bundle up your kids. Right? Again, you're not selling a whole lot, but if they want to, they can check out your merchandise. And by the end of this sequence, you're introducing them to your products that solve the problem that you developed interest in a couple of emails back. So it really just comes down to, again, thinking about this as a customer journey, right? Where they started, they're not really interested in buying stuff, and where they end up, hopefully they want to buy stuff from you. Think about all the steps that happen in between and how you can move them in that direction. Does that help answer your question?
Yes. I think it's great, and I have a technical question right on that example. If you're called something like, I don't know, like your name is a retail name, it can even be called flowery jackets, for example. And then you're sending educational materials from the same account. Is that okay?
It's fine, because you're not trying to confuse people. You're
Right.
sending them educational information, but you're not pretending to be an educational company. This is just your blog, and you're talking about stuff that your audience is interested in. That's it. You may want those emails to look a little different. So when someone's on your, let's say, let's call it your blog subscription, those emails are going to look different than the people who are actually signing up for discounts. Okay, so sometimes what you want to do is get your customers to sign up for multiple lists. So you've got somebody in your, let's call it educational content list. You want to figure out, okay, how do I get these people interested in my products so that now they're going to go and sign up for the next list, which is going to give them those promotions on the products that I have just developed interest in. And if you do that, then it's very clear for the customer, this is my educational list, this is my purchasing list. And you're not trying to trick people or anything like that. And I think where you're going with this is, well, if I just start trying to sell them stuff, are they going to report me for spam? So that's why you want them to opt into those commercial lists as much as possible.
Right. Yes, I think that's a very good idea. I remember back in the day when I was myself a big fan of podcasts, I was listening to this lady who opened a retail store, and she made it specifically for new moms who are looking to get a new sized clothing due to the different, the changes in their bodies. But also they made it very comfortable that they can walk in with their kids, small kids, babies, anything like that. So they made a bit larger space. And they had a little play area for the kids. So that's like one of the examples I learned myself back in the day when I was listening to a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts. And I think now my question is, if you're starting out and let's say you have very limited number of emails on your email list, what's the best way to start? Is it those giveaways or anything else that you would recommend?
I would say start with something like that because it's pretty straightforward and you'll get tangible results at the end. You do a giveaway. If you do it well, again, it's not going to cost you a lot of money. You should be able to generate at least a few thousand emails, if not more. In a perfect world, you're going to get into other methods of building your list. And one of the things you can do if you have a little bit of budget is start doing some lead gen through paid ads. Okay, you can actually create lead generation ads right on Facebook, right in Google, and it's not going to cost a whole lot. Maybe it costs you like $1 to get an email onto your list. As long as you're very intentional about it and you're spending money that you have, you're not gambling, right? You can get a lot of value out of those leads. And even if that's a very small list at the beginning, if you structure your ads in the right way, those people are already deeper in the funnel. They're more likely to make a purchase. So I would say definitely do that to get people who are more interested in buying stuff. And then you can get creative with other things too. So if you're a small business, you can approach local press about stuff. But again, everybody does the same stuff, and that's why it doesn't often work. You have to be creative about it. So I'll give you an example of something that you can do, which is a little more interesting than maybe what people think about when they think about publicity. Okay, you can create, let's say, a survey on your site where you're talking about something that's relevant in the news. You do this survey and you get answers to it, and then you write content about it. Once you have that content, if it's relevant, then you can go out to the press and say, hey, I did this survey. I got X number of people to answer all these questions. Here are the results, and here's why it's interesting and press-worthy. So you can start that on a local level. It's pretty easy to get into those local publications, and then as you get better at it and as you have more budget and that kind of thing, then you can approach the national stage. But what you want to do is, okay, now you've got this really interesting data story that you're pitching to newspapers and stuff. You want to make sure that they're helping you drive people directly to that page with a link on their website, or they're at least telling people the name of your site so that if there's a button, they can read all about it, etc. And again, once they're on the page, you have to give them a reason to give you their information. So let's say, for example, you do a survey on holiday shopping, and some newspapers pick it up, and they have websites, and they're like, yeah, go to this website and see the rest of this survey stuff. Okay, they land on the page, and then maybe there's something, again, you want to have a really strong call to action that says something like, oh, if you want to learn more about these shopping habits or whatever it is, sign up and we'll send you the full report or something. Okay, so they're already interested in the content on the page. They get the high level, which gives more depth to whatever it is you spoke about in the news. And then if they sign up, they get to download deeper information, the full report or whatever. Now they're on your email list, and you understand why they're on your email list, so that you can then build that sequence of emails to drive them in the direction of purchasing something. In a perfect world, you want to think about topics that are relevant to your audience and also interesting for whatever's going on in the news. So you do that. That's another way that isn't necessarily that expensive to grow your email list.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand that. And I think my next question is actually about those newspaper and establishments. Do you think it's still a very effective marketing tool to be featured in a local article or whatnot?
Depends on what you want to do with it. So what I would say is you want to focus on publications that have an online presence, because going from print to digital is much more challenging. There's a lot of space there than going from a page on a website, clicking a link, and landing on your site. And there are two benefits to this. One benefit, of course, is if the customer clicks through and they read the associated content on your site and they sign up for your email list, that's wonderful. The other benefit to it is you're building links to your site in a very organic way, and Google likes this. So if you're going out to the press and you're getting these stories and they're linking back to your site, you're becoming more authoritative, and now your content, which is hopefully really good, it starts moving up the rankings on Google because more sites are linking to you. So there's definite value as long as you're intentional about it. Now, in my case, on a personal level, I essentially do B2B work, right? I'm looking for other businesses who want to do business with me in some way. For someone like me, or in your audience, it would be somebody who wants to become a consultant or something like that, I need social proof. That's why we're doing this podcast. This is why I'm getting into the media in different places, because if in my funnel, right, my customer journey, I want people to buy my business services, I want to move them along in the same way that somebody would move a consumer along. So the first part of discovery is maybe they find me on LinkedIn, or maybe they see me on the news or something like that. That's that first point of contact. And then I want to nurture those leads to build trust over time, so that when they're ready to speak with me, there's already a certain amount of rapport and we haven't even had a conversation yet. So as long as you're intentional about it, I think there's a tremendous amount of value you can get out of that sort of thing.
I love it, because I think these days people are very focused on digital marketing and paid ads right away, where everyone forgot the old school, and that still works, like direct mail marketing and just being featured in the local community newsletters even. Those lawn signs, I love those. When you drive by and you see people have their lawn signs, I mean, they are so authentic, and I think they really work. My next question is about digital marketing, because everyone is thinking only about how am I going to do a good paid marketing campaign on Facebook, let's say. What is your advice? When and how you should start it, and how can you see if it's working or not, and how you can optimize it?
Yeah. So the short answer is you should start it soon, but you don't want to gamble. You want to make sure that when you do invest in advertising, that you have some degree of knowledge about it so that you're getting results that are relatively expected and relatively achievable. And what that means are a couple of things. First, if you're thinking about driving purchases, then you want to think about what your, again, I hate marketing talk, but return on ad spend is. All that means is if I'm spending $1 on an ad and I'm driving $3 in revenue, then I'm getting a 3x return on whatever it is I spent on this advertising. So you can think about it in those terms. Now, what I would suggest is if you're just starting out, start with the organic stuff and let's put a timeline on it, okay? These are, you can look this up, this is wellness stuff. Think about SMART goals, okay? Stuff that's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. I think those are
right, yeah.
So let's say you set a SMART goal of 3 months, and within 3 months what you want to achieve is maybe you want to be able to do 1 blog post per week, a couple of Facebook posts, some stuff on Instagram, etc. Whatever that goal is, try to get to that point at the end of 3 months. It could be a different timeline, it doesn't matter. Just try to do that. By the end of that timeline, at that 3-month mark, ask yourself, have I achieved this with my organic marketing? Am I doing these posts on a regular basis? Have I built the habit of putting up social media posts and blog content and all of that? And if I've achieved that, then maybe it's time to level up and start spending money on advertising. And if I haven't achieved that, then it might mean that I'm just not focused enough on my digital marketing and I need to put more work into the organic side before I think about spending money. Otherwise, I'm just going to be throwing it away.
Right.
As you build these habits, you're learning. You're reading stuff, you're looking at what content people are engaged with, what they're actually interested in. That's going to drive your decision-making process on the kinds of ads you want to place. And when you place your ads, you want to think about different goals. Not every ad should be about selling products. Sometimes you want to advertise to build your email list with that lead generation, all that stuff. And sometimes you do want to sell products. And sometimes you want to re-engage people who have already seen your content. So if somebody lands on that blog post, even if you have a really good call to action to sign up for your email list to get stuff, a lot of people still aren't going to do it. And that's where the retargeted advertising comes in, where you don't have to spend a whole lot of money, but if you have enough volume, you can start driving ads to people who have already visited your website, already visited your social profiles, and now you have another shot at getting them back on your list. And you're getting more impressions with the same people who have already seen your stuff. So again, on that customer journey, you're reaching that customer many times until that point where they actually want to buy stuff.
Yes, yeah, I know as a practitioner, like even for the podcast that I have, I've been trying to do more articles and I'm trying to post things that would lead back into the podcasting on Instagram and social media. And I've been experimenting and I've been finding some tools to use over the years. And one of them is Canva, for example. I like that one because it's so easy to use. Are there any other tools that you would recommend?
So, yes, there are a number of tools people can use. Canva is great. And Adobe has one that's very similar. It's called Spark. I actually use that more than Canva, just because it has other different
more
features. More
professional, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. And what I would really encourage people to do is to start using some of the keyword research tools, because that's going to help you understand. It's going to help you understand what people are actually looking for. And two tools that come to mind. One of them, if you don't have a lot of budget, there's a tool called Uber Suggest, UBER Suggest. It's on Neil Patel's website. It's a wonderful tool, and you can get a lot of value out of it without spending any money. And if you spend a couple of bucks a month, you get even more value. And what it does is you put in some keywords that you think people might be interested in, and then it's going to return basically how much volume that keyword has over the course of a month and how much competition there is for that keyword. So in a perfect world, you're going to be looking for keywords that are relevant to your audience, stuff they're interested in, which has high search volume and low competition. There's not a lot of that out there today because a lot of people are doing the same thing, and that's why these tools are so important to use. If you have a little bit more budget, you can use, my favorite paid tool is Sem Rush, S-E-M Rush. Back when I used to use it in the beginning, they were known as SEM Rush, which is search engine marketing. But they got into the social media stuff lately, so they're not really just about search engines, so they've rebranded to Sem Rush. But anyway, those are two great tools, Uber Suggest and Sem Rush. I would say start there. And again, it's all about understanding who your customers are and what people are actually interested in looking for on the internet.
Wow, great. I think as a follow-up to that would be actually, if you were to share with us, what do you think the best kept secret is in your industry?
The best kept secret in my industry is that it's not rocket science. You can do this stuff if you want to. Think of people like me as facilitators. When I work with my clients, I don't get into rambling about all of these different fancy words and acronyms and all this stuff. If you talk to a digital marketer and they start rambling off of these like 3-letter terms that nobody knows about, it probably means they're pretending. So stay clear. What you want is somebody who can have a conversation and be transparent with you about the value they can bring and how they can get there. It isn't rocket science. If you want to do this stuff yourself, you can. It just takes effort and dedication and having the right mindset. You're not going to be successful at every single thing you do in digital marketing. But if you're tenacious, you can find those things that do resonate with your audience, that do work for your company, and those things that take advantage of the skills that you have internally. I'm not a very social person. That's why a lot of the stuff I do is related to search engines and why I'm really into inbound marketing. Because I'm not the guy that wants to get on the phone and call people all day. It's not who I am. I'd rather them come to me. So for me, digital marketing is a very good fit because I'm just creating value and then people come to me to talk about stuff when they're interested, or my clients. So think about what attributes you have in your own life, in your own personality, and how you might be able to leverage those in your own digital marketing journey.
Wow. Thank you so much. I think not many digital marketers would agree or would admit to that. But I love transparency. I love when people are authentic. When is a good time, you think, to actually hire people to do this for you? And how do you choose? Because if you're not a good writer of blogs yourself, I bet you wouldn't be able even to choose a good writer. So that's a bit of a conundrum there that a lot of people have.
It's a tough question. What I would say, the short answer, just in general with your business, is you want to hire people to help you as soon as it makes sense. And what I mean by that is so many people spend a lot of time doing the day-to-day stuff of their business that they're not thinking big picture. How do I grow my company? If you're spending all day packing boxes, probably means you need to hire somebody to pack those boxes so that then you can start doing digital marketing. If you're spending 8 hours a day doing digital marketing, it probably means you need to hire somebody to take some of that off your plate so that you have time for the other areas of your business. So it really comes down to a personal decision, and really, I like the idea of thinking about what your end goal is. So if your end goal is, I just want to be happy, I want to make some money with this business, and I'm okay with doing all the marketing stuff, it still brings me joy, then do that. You probably don't need to hire anybody. If your end goal is, I want to take over the world and be the next Tory Burch or something like that, then you probably want to hire people sooner. So think about what your personal goals are and use that as a guide. And the last thing I'll say is that you just want to pay attention to your profitability. At the end of the day, if you're spending $10K a month on a digital marketer and they're producing $5K a month in revenue, which means you're losing a whole bunch of money, that doesn't make much sense. But if you know that, okay, I'm generating revenue with the work that I do, I'm making some profit, I could take that profit and put it towards hiring an expert so they can get some of this stuff off my plate so that I can then look at my business on a big picture level, that's probably a really good thing for you. So those are some of the things that will help an individual answer that question for themselves.
Wow. Thank you, Dennis. I think at the end of the day, it's always a trial and error, and entrepreneurial life is all about that. We just wish good luck to everyone who will be in this journey. And as my last question, I would like to know your long-term vision and what you would like to achieve in life.
It's a big question. What I would say is that on the business side, my why is very clear today. I like to help small businesses and startups because I really believe that they give people hope. And I know that that's what we really need today. When I think about all of the feelings and physical symptoms associated with the last 2 years, I know that people have lost that sense of hope. And so seeing somebody who's an entrepreneur, who's successful, who's taking something who starts at nothing and builds a business and is able to escape the day-to-day that so many people feel trapped in, right? We're going through this great resignation now where people are quitting their jobs everywhere. When I see that, it gives me hope. And when other people see it, it brings them hope. So my goal is to help these companies be as successful as they can, because I know that at the end of that, they're going to inspire other people to do the same thing. So that's my vision.
Awesome. Thank you for your time, Dennis, today. And we wish you good luck. And thank you again for contributing to our entrepreneurial community here at Open School of Business.
My pleasure. And if you want to reach out to me, just find me on LinkedIn. It's the easiest thing to do. Dennis Consorte, Consorte. As long as you're not trying to sell me something in the first DM that you send, I'll probably connect with you.
Awesome. Great. Agreed.